Where is Sapna? Okay, Sapna, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna.
सर्वभूतास्थितं यो मां भजति एकत्वम् आस्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते. Translation. The yogi who knows that I am the super soul within all creatures and one worships within all creatures are one worships me and remain always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the super soul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with four hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of super soul is
Your voice is breaking. Is her voice breaking only for me?
Furthermore, between your super soul.
Yes, Mataji, it's breaking, it's cracking.
Sapna, your voice is breaking. Could you please read again? Krishna is in this form of super soul.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you. Okay. Krishna in this form of super soul.
Krishna in this form of super heart. Furthermore,
no.
there is no difference between the innumerable super souls. Is it breaking, Mataji?
No, it's good now.
Okay. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable super souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikileshu avastashu jivan mukta sa uchyate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkaladi anavachine Krishne cheto vidaya cha tanmayo bhavati kshipram jivo brahmani yojayet. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the
Spotless.
The Vedas confirm this inconceivable avabhati aishwaryad rupam ekam cha suryavad bahudeyate. Vishnu is one and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere. As the sun, he appears in many places at once.
Thank you so much. So nice, right? This is the samadhi, the description of samadhi. That somebody who is practicing the Ashtanga yoga, what are they meditating on? They're meditating on the super soul, which is a plenary expansion, a plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu. Okay, it's very important to understand that super soul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu. So even Mahavishnu, Garvadaksha Vishnu, and Shridaksha Vishnu are plenary portion of Krishna, with four hands holding conch shell, but there is no difference. See, the yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. And Krishna in this form is super soul is situated in everyone's heart. Person who understand that super soul is situated in everyone's heart will never actually disrespect anyone, will never cause harm to anyone. All the harms and the desire to dominate over someone else or force is because of the lack of this knowledge. It's actually a product of mode of ignorance. If somebody wants to authorize, like, and somebody wants to forcefully authorize something on someone else, in any shape or form, because Krishna doesn't do that, right? Krishna is not doing it. Krishna discusses, gives option, explains, but then ultimately he says to Arjuna that yathechasi tatha kuru, whatever you want, you do. But person who does that is actually is infected by the mode of ignorance, not even passion, ignorance. It's a disease. Causing harm to someone is the product of mode of ignorance. And there is no difference between Krishna conscious person always engaged in transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. That is why Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga. Krishna consciousness is easy to perform. How many of us are ready to leave everything we have and go on top of the Himalayan jungles and sit and meditate? Hey Krishna, sorry, and sit and meditate. You can raise your hand if you're ready to do that. If you're ready to go and just leave everything and sit on the Himalayan jungle and meditate, if you're ready, because that's what is Ashtanga yoga, right? One has to live in a secluded place. How many of you are ready? Nobody is answering.
No one is ready, Mataji.
Nobody's ready.
Nobody is
Not ready,
Not
Mataji.
possible.
Not yet.
So how many of you are ready to pick up your beads and chant Hare Krishna?
Yeah, that is we are ready.
Yes,
Mataji, I'm ready.
That I am doing.
We are ready.
That we are doing, Mataji.
That
You
is
see, the praman, the evidence is in front of us, that what is easy and what is not easy. Okay, it's right there in front of us. And don't think that person who's sincerely chanting Hare Krishna and serving Krishna is any different from the person who's sitting on the Himalayas and trying to become perfect. There is no difference. That's what. There is no difference. Nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in transcendental living service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. Okay, a Krishna conscious person is engaged in the activities of the world, but because they're always meditating on Krishna, they are liberated. And Bhakti Rasamrita, see, this is how our system of education is. We say something and then we give evidence. This is how Prabhupada taught us. And all of you, half of Bhagavad Gita is practically, almost half of Bhagavad Gita is practically over, or we can say first third is over with chapter 6. So you must start preaching in the same principles, that when you say, give an evidence, like Prabhupada is giving evidence from Rupa Goswami Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion. Nikhileshu avasthashu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Devotee of Lord always acting in Krishna consciousness is automatically liberated. Okay, we should be able to produce evidence. Sorry. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This is a very detailed line. This we will study more if we come to Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, verse 39. If you hear Prabhupada's lecture, Prabhupada explains the knowledge of Krishna consciousness and different kinds of knowledge. Kutija, Prarabdha, not Kutija, I forgot. But then Prabhupada is explaining there. It's a very detailed lecture. I've already heard it 3 times and I'm going to hear it again. That Prabhupada explains that how Krishna consciousness knowledge is apratihata. Apratihata means it is the highest. He explains 4 levels of knowledge in Sanskrit language, and he explains what is the meaning of each, and then he explains how Krishna consciousness is the highest. So actually we have the highest. We are just not able to value it. If you give a very precious jewel to a 5-year-old child, will that child be able to value that, oh, this is a very expensive diamond? Will they be able to value that?
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji.
Our situation is something like that. Our situation is something like that in terms of Krishna consciousness, that we have the highest, but we don't value it. Prabhupada explains in that lecture that our mind is so disturbed that it is actually looking for something other than Krishna. It keeps on looking. We know that chanting Hare Krishna is the highest, but then we still keep on looking for something else. Keep on, trying to distract us with something else, because this is not so important. But that's because of the uncontrolled mind. Okay, if we are postponing or procrastinating chanting of our rounds or our Krishna conscious activity, we must understand for our own sake that my mind is still uncontrolled thoroughly. I haven't moved an inch. Okay, when we will start giving priority to the real self that I am in the beginning of the day, then I have a chance of becoming perfect in this life. So please take up Krishna consciousness in the, not in the sense that okay, you because Hare Krishna chanting can be done at any point of the day or night. That's fine. I'm not saying that, but there is always a priority, right? What needs to be done first and what needs to be done next and next. If somebody is extremely sick or somebody has an emergency, that's different. But in a regular day-to-day life, if we are serious, we must know what needs to come first. So first thing first. Okay. I guess we can move on. Mataji, you can unmute Swati Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna.
Arjuna. Sorry. Text 32. आत्मापम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्याति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यादि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः. He is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings both in their happiness and distress. O Arjuna, purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all activities of a human being. Krishna is the proprietor of all lands and planets. The perfect yogi is the sincerest friend of all living entities. He knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. Because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Na tasmat kashit me priyakrit tamaha. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the, I'm not getting that,
Welfare of
to
all
the
living
welfare.
entities.
To the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for other also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. Mataji, please scroll.
I think there's a delay because my page is up. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who's trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. So nice. Prabhupada is giving assurance in every line. Thank you, Mataji. So Prabhupada is saying that who is a perfect yogi? So we have to know who is perfect because we have very less time. We cannot just go on wasting our time to experiment things when it comes to self-realization. You can't just, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, in the share market, this is not a very good example, but just to just to emphasize the importance. In the share market, if somebody says, "Oh, this particular share today is 100 rupees," okay, but tomorrow it will fall and it will be 0 rupees. So it's gonna fall. So will a person of intelligence invest there?
No, Mataji. He will not invest.
No
not
matter.
invest, right? So that similar is the situation of our life. Similar is the situation of our life, that we are investing so deeply in our material existence, to become happy in Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, and Shri, that we are actually forgetting that what is of prime importance. Because all those things are fallible soldiers. They're all fallible soldiers. It's in Srimad Bhagavatam written as a person thinks that, oh, my richness will save me. Oh, my education and social contacts will save me. Oh, my so nice wife will save me. Oh, I have so nice children, they will save me. You see, Srimad Bhagavatam gives this analysis. I'm forgetting the verse. I used to know the verse, but and then Vyasdev says, but they're all fallible soldiers. They're all fallible soldiers, because at the end, only Krishna can save. Arjuna says, Krishna Tvam Ekam, and Krishna says, Mam Ekam. And that's real. It's not factual. That's real. If somebody has had an experience that everything else is on one side of the world and only Krishna, that is a devotee. Okay, that's a perfection of life. Actually, that's a perfection, that without you, Krishna, I have nothing. Nothing. That person is called Akinchana, right? Namo Akinchana Vittaya, Nivritta Guna Vittaye, Atma Ramaya Shantaya, Kevalya Pataye Namaha. Queen Kunti prays like this to Krishna in Bhagavatam, that Krishna, you are the property of the impoverished. We think that impoverished means bankrupt, but that's not what impoverished means. Because the most exalted and most rich people of the world were taking pride in worshipping Krishna. Yudhishthira Maharaj, Arjun, or Dhruva Maharaj, or Amrish Maharaj, or Prahlad Maharaj, right? They're all like kings of the world. So they are taking pride in worshipping Krishna and bowing in front of Krishna. They were not mongers, but they understood that Krishna is the property of the impoverished. Even though I have all these things, but I am completely poverty stricken, because I cannot, um, do anything to save myself. I cannot. If you really can save yourself, then averse your death. Averse your death. That only Krishna can do. Other than that, it's like buying zero rupees shares, which is going to fall anyway. And we're very busy. We're very, very busy. Even if we attend so many classes, what is that verse that Prahlad Maharaj tells to Hiranyakashipu in 7th canto? So Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj that which is a perfect knowledge in the whole world. So Prahlad Maharaj says the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a perfect knowledge. So, but then he says, don't worry, oh best of the demons. He never called Prahlad Hiranyakashipu as a father. He said, don't worry, oh best of the demon, oh best of the demons, don't worry. Why? Because Matir na Krishna parato satova mittavi padyeta griha vritanam adhanta gobir vishatam tamishram punha punas charvita charvananam. Matir na Krishna. The intelligence to understand Krishna is not going to come. Don't worry, you will not get intelligence to understand Krishna or best of the demons. Why? Parato Svatova, even by personal endeavor or by endeavoring with the whole group of friends. Why? Even by personal endeavors or or joining with the endeavor of others, the intelligence to worship Krishna is not going to come. Don't worry. Don't worry. Why? Because Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram. Because you have accepted the dark well of family as all in all and very busy in chewing the chew. Actually, that causes our death. I was reading, Prabhupada was explaining the definition of death. Definition of death is that whatever I have is going to be left. I'm going to leave. And then I don't know where I'm going to go. And that causes fear in a conditioned soul, because the conditioned soul is driven by false ego. The false ego that this is what I am. And if this is going to be lost, then I'm going to be in problem. And this is fearful. But for a devotee of Krishna, there is no fear. Actually, pure devotee, not just any devotee. Pure devotee of Krishna has no fear. Why? Because they know that Krishna says in 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that I am the death personified. So Krishna has now come in front of me as death. and Krishna has now come in front of me as my life. But anyway, where I started was that Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of knowledge, highest perfection of yoga. And don't be busy in buying that 0 rupees share without trying for something which has no value attached to it. And don't become like that 5-year-old child who has such a valuable jewel in the hand and doesn't know the value of it because of their ignorance. It's not that the jewel loses the value, it's because the child is in ignorance. You don't know. You know. It's just a matter of realizing now. But theoretically, you know. And if you really want to realize, then you have to put an effort. Without putting an effort, it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen because, see, Krishna can do anything to anyone. I agree. But Krishna wants to see a movement. My friend was talking to me yesterday. She was saying, movement is very important. In any, you see, if I say to my son and my daughter, oh, I love you so much, but whole day I'm sitting on my bed and not doing anything for them, but I just say, oh, I love you, your mom loves you so much, is that really, like, am I really true to my words? Am I really true to my words?
No, Mataji.
I'm saying,
No, Mataji.
saying that, oh, I'm your mother, somebody's laughing very nicely, but I'm saying that I'm your mother and I love you so much.
बेटा आवाज मत करो ना.
But then they will not agree, right? Because movement is needed. When you say that I love you, then you have to show it. You need to show it. Actually, there is a need of a relationship. I gave example of mother and children. You take any example. If you say I love my country, but I'm just going to lock myself in a room and will not go to school, will not work towards country's development, will not help my neighbor, but I love my country. Is my love very nice? Is it really love?
No,
No,
Mataji.
Mataji.
So I don't understand that people who say Bhagwan dil mein hai, right? God is in the heart. They are very lazy people. I'm sorry, but they're very lazy because God if is in the heart, that means they can evade the action. But people who say that Krishna is everywhere, sarvatra, right? Antar bahir avasthitam. So inside and outside, then you have to move and you have to do something about it. But very easy way of evading the worship or devotional service is to say that God is in the heart, but why not God is outside the heart also? Why not? So at the end of the day, we must analyze our day. What did I do for Krishna today? Right? Prabhupada says a very busy materialist, learn from them in the sense that they don't lose even a moment of their time. Learn. Prabhupada says that in one of the lectures that they don't lose. If you have to meet a very busy businessman, very busy doctor, very busy person in any scientist, will it be easy or will you have to make an appointment?
Appointment. Make an appointment.
So what does it entail? It entails that they are very conscious of their time. They're very, very conscious of their time. They have limited time, and that's what they have to know, so that their day is at the end a profit. Now, in their mathematics, the profit is whatever, like how many projects I did, how much money I made, or whatever, or how much knowledge I acquired, or how many new experiments I was able to invent, or whatever. But they are conscious. So why are we not conscious? How are we taking our life so loose and going on and on and on? You see, this is Maya. This is Maya. Maya means that which is not. That is the meaning of the word Maya. That which is not. So become conscious that I do have a limited time here. I do have very, very limited time. And whatever time Krishna has given me, why can't I go back to my unlimited life by utilizing this limited time that I have been given? And that actually happens in the association of devotees because our mind is so disturbed. If we are left alone, there is no strength to act. There is no strength to act. There may be a desire, but there is no strength to act because of the disturbed mind, because of so many unfulfilled desires. But when we are in the association of devotees, the devotees somebody pushes you from back, somebody pushes you from the side, somebody pushes you from this side, somebody pushes you from everywhere, and then you go on working and working and working, and you don't even know that, oh, I came 1,000 steps towards Krishna today. So association is very valuable. One must have an association. That's why I told all of you to make that subgroups. Only Damodar group is existing. I think everyone else is like very busy in their la la land, or so-called busy. I am respecting your whatever you do in life, but please, as a moderator of this class, it is my responsibility to remind you that what is of real importance. Okay, what is of real importance, and it is for my own good. How many of you want to be happy in life? How many of you really want to be happy in life?
Happy Mataji. All of us
All of
want to
us.
be happy.
You talk about yourself. How many of you are?
Yes, Mataji.
I want to be happy.
So,
All of
Everyone around us.
how many of you want to be happy?
Everyone around
Yeah,
us.
I agree.
Even me.
Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu.
All of us.
Okay. So there is some happiness. There is some happiness in acquiring material acquisitions. I agree with that, but it doesn't last. So, how many of you want everlasting happiness? Everlasting, never finished.
All of us.
How
Who
many of
doesn't
you
want
want
it?
everlasting?
Yes, Mataji.
All of
Everyone.
us,
Yeah,
Mataji.
yes, Mataji.
All of us.
Then we have to work. And we have to work towards it, and the work is actually, thank you very much, and the work is actually full of joy. The work itself is full of joy. You see, the material work is full of labor, right? What is that? Prabhupada explains in Bhagavatam that when some materialistic is working in the material energy, then they go through these process of tiring. There are different levels.
Varga.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Ba. No,
Baba.
doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. But anyway, the same way that Pavarga. Pavarga, Prabhupada explains that there are different levels of being tired, how body and mind gets tired throughout the day. In the beginning of the day, it is so fresh, but how the day gets, as the day gets progressive, the conditioned soul feels tired in the material world, because the process of acquiring happiness in the material world is very, very tiring. It's very, very tiring. If I go to work, and in America there is a culture of asking, right, how are you? So if you ask how are you, then you get everyday response different. Well, it could be better, but today is Monday. Okay, now Tuesday. Well, one day down, 3 days to go. Okay, then comes the Friday. I am very happy it's Friday today. So actually, because the process of living and working in the material world is very tiring. A genuine person will say that it is tiring, and a person who is very engrossed in mode of passion will say, well, that's a part of life. You see, Bhagavatam has analyzed everything. Yesterday, I was hearing Prabhupada was describing in third canto, 26th chapter, Prabhupada was saying, discussing on the verse of qualities of fire. Like fire means something that ignites hunger, that ignites thirst, that gives food its texture, that also digest food. So like that, he was explaining the properties of fire, and then he said that one may question that this is Srimad Bhagavatam, and why is Vyasadeva mentioning the properties of fire? And Prabhupada was explaining, yes, it is important, because one who understands Krishna must understand Krishna's energies also, because Krishna is not alone. So you are also Krishna's energy. You've got to understand yourself. You've got to understand that what's making you tired, what's making you lively, what is more important for your own sake. My friend was talking to me. I'm sorry, we can go on because it's such a deep topic, but she was talking to me about cultural shame and personal shame. So we were discussing that, the cultural shame and personal shame. Like, what are some of the blockers that one is hesitant to take up Krishna consciousness? And the topic of shame came up. It is actually shame. People don't like to chant in their family, or don't like to be known as a devotee of Krishna because of cultural shame. And personal shame is, oh, I'm not doing anything other than Krishna consciousness. That is personal shame. So we have to cross those thick layers of shame also. Okay, it's very deep. It's very deep and it is very nice because it is at the end going to lead to the realization of the beautiful self. Self is very beautiful because it's part and parcel of Krishna. And then we were saying that actually Krishna's relationship and the relationship of a soul and Krishna is very personal. You see, all of us know theoretically, we don't have any realization, okay? But theoretically, we know that I am part and parcel of Krishna. So you know, right? You're part and parcel of Krishna, so you have a relationship with Krishna. So even though this is a generalized statement that I am part and parcel of Krishna, you are part and parcel of Krishna, but the relationship between the soul and Krishna is so unique. Each one of us are taken care of by Krishna in a very unique manner. That my relation with Krishna will not be known to you, and your relation with Krishna will not be known to anyone else because Krishna has kept us that way. That's why we look for intimate relationships in this world. We look for it because we have left it somewhere else. The real one is left behind, and now we are looking. Where is Krishna bhuliya jeev bhog vancha kare? So we forgot Krishna, and now we are trying to gratify our senses. So it's a very precarious situation to be in. I think I said many points. First point is that Krishna conscious knowledge is a perfect knowledge. Perfect. There are 4 levels of knowledge. I think I should be able to share that lecture after this class. Prabhupada explains that Krishna conscious knowledge is called apratihata. Okay, and then when the definition is that it is the highest level of knowledge, there is no knowledge above that. Prabhupada was explaining the meaning of the word adhokshaja. So many things, is a very detailed lecture. Prabhupada usually doesn't give such shastric lectures to public, but that lecture is quite deep. And then it goes on and on. And number 2 is that we want to be happy, but we are trying to buy the 0 rupee share and trying to become happy and put value in something which is no value if it is not connected to Krishna. I'm not saying we should not do our responsibility, but you should know what is what. You should know. That's called taking care of oneself. Really. And how can we take care of oneself? Now this is another thing, by setting a goal. Why people are so going haywire? If you don't have a goal, then as you don't know where your day is going. It's like you take your car and just go put the petrol in the car and then just go and drive aimlessly. Just go and drive aimlessly. Is that a very good driving? Is that a very good driving? Just go on driving.
It's
No,
useless.
mother.
It's useless.
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
There is no aim, right? So we need to have a goal. Set a goal. What do you want to do in short-term goal, long-term goal? What do you want to do today in this moment? Then what do you want to do by the end of the week? What do you want to do by the end of the month? What do you want to do by the end of the year in terms of increasing your Krishna consciousness? Because if you work on Krishna consciousness, it's like working on the root of a tree. Everything else will fall in place. If you are really working under supervision of nice devotees and nice Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra principle, it will happen. Because you're watering the root. You're really watering the root. Okay, so that's so happiness, perfection of knowledge. And then we discussed that the blocker in taking up Krishna consciousness is personal and cultural shame. It was actually very revealing to me when she was discussing and she went on and on and on. See, I have so nice friends. You've got to have friends like this who can talk in depth to this kind of things. And the other thing is that our relationship with Krishna is very, very unique. Even though we all have Krishna relationship with Krishna, we know that as a general word, in a general statement, but it is still very unique. Krishna, because I'm very dear to Krishna. That is why Krishna has given me this chance. If I was not dear to Krishna, then I wouldn't have received this chance to become Krishna conscious one more time. It's a very fortunate person who gets actually a shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, right? Chaitanya Chaitamrita Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhupada says, Brahmand Brahmite Kono Bhagyavanji, Guru Krishna Kripa Pai Bhakti Lata Dij. So Brahmand Brahmite were wandering, the whole Brahman, the whole manifestation. Brahmite means wandering. Kono Bhagyavanji, very, very fortunate soul, gets the shelter of Guru and Krishna. Kono Bhagyavanji. That's real fortune. But I am so covered that I really can't understand. But the verse goes on. It's not, these are only 2 lines, and then it goes that now you have received the beej, the seed. Now you become a gardener, and then you nourish the seed. Just by having a seed is not enough, but you have to water the seed. Then you have to remove the weeds, and then you have to take care of it against the pest. So that's the concept, or that's the subject matter of a book called Light of Bhagavata. Is a book called Light of Bhagavata, in which Bhaktilata Beej is described. How do we take care of the seed of bhakti, and how do we remove the unnecessary weeds in the form of anarthas, and how do we take care of the seed in terms of different weathers? It's cold, or it's a very nice book. We must read it one time. That describes the principle of bhakti and taking care of it. Okay, Krishna consciousness is a principle that gives us everlasting happiness. There is nothing which can give us everlasting happiness. There is a concept of happiness in something we do. That's why we do. We are driven by anything in this world by a mellow. Mellow means a taste attached to it, right? Prabhupada explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that a family man is working in the family because he's driven by the mellow, with the love of the family. A nationalist work for the nation, being driven by the love of the nation. So there is always a emotion, and the emotion definition is a feeling that puts you in motion, not like we remain stagnant, right? I gave example of my children and me, that I say I love you, but I don't move at all. I just keep sitting. That's not emotion. So emotion that puts you in motion, feeling that puts you in emotion is the definition of emotion. So there's got to be a movement. Move and do something. At the end of the day, you must be able to. And as I said, Prabhupada explained and learned from the materialist that how vigilant they are in terms of their time. So you must also become very vigilant. What did you do at the end of the day for Krishna? Did you chant nicely? Did you read something? Did you talk about Krishna to someone else? How much prasadam did you eat today, and where did you sleep? And what is it that you really think you need to work on? So when Krishna sees this determination in a conditioned soul, you get help. We need help. And Krishna can give the help. Okay, and Prabhupada is saying here, the yogi who is withdrawn to a secluded place in order to perfectly meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. We always get driven by something which we can't do. Right, so these yogis, they are sitting in very cold weather without wearing any woolen clothes and meditating and everything. So a conditioned soul gets attracted to these principles, not because they are perfect, but because we can't do that. But the other Vaishnavas are moving around in the world like us, so they become of less importance in our eyes, because whatever they're doing, we can do that too, right? We think like that. Actually, we are not doing that, but we think like that whatever a Vaishnava is doing, we can do, but it's not possible. Prabhupada is saying better is the person who's trying to move around the world and trying to serve Krishna in that way, turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. You cannot understand the intricacies of activities of another Vaishnava without being a Vaishnava yourself. Otherwise, a Vaishnava will just look like an ordinary person to our eyes. But they are not ordinary. Because it is not ordinary to try to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is a perfect example, yes, but I also want to give example of my Siksha Guru, Namanishta Prabhu. You see, he doesn't have a need. If he is not liberated, he's not on a liberated platform, then he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. It's very Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Hoye Parivartan. Without Krishna's energy, no one can actually turn towards Krishna. So I don't understand that how, of course, I respect him from the bottom of my heart, but it is still it's a secret. Krishna, Vaishnava's activities are secret to a common man. It still is a secret to me that how can one become such a powerful preacher that people are joining from every nook and corner of the whole world. It's very, very astonishing to a common person like me. Okay, don't take it for granted. Don't become so familiar with any devotee. Always, if you become familiar, then you can't really praise them. Then you can't really absorb their good qualities. Then you can't really serve a Vaishnava. if you become familiar. But if you stay apart and just and look at them and glorify their activities, then Krishna empowers that yes, this person really wants to serve, and that is actually a definition of humility also, which we can discuss in some other time. I think I said so many things. Any questions? It's a very nice verse. This is the last verse in the description of Ashtanga Yoga principle. I don't know. People are raising hand to read, or if you have a question, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi Krishna. Who is speaking?
Poonam.
Poonam Mataji. Ha. Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, as we are talking about the Vaishnava, so does the Vaishnava people are those who are chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra even once, one round?
Even once or daily doing one round? What is your?
Daily one round, yes.
Yes, there are 3 levels, right? Kanishta Adhikar, Madhyam Adhikar, Uttam Adhikar. Do you know about that?
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Yes, yeah, they are Vaishnava because they are worshipping Vishnu, but then there is always a gradation that Rupa Goswami Prabhupada has given us, Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. Now we have, and our relationship with Kanishta is supposed to be of just paying them mental respect because we don't want to associate because they're still not there yet. But Madhyama sees 4 kind of people, right? So you know this? The Madhyama Adhikari sees 4 kind of people.
Madhyama Adhikari are the marginal one.
No, not marginal. Anyway, the answer to your question is yes. Yes, they're Vaishnavas, but then there are different degrees of Vaishnavas. If you go to a college, there are different teachers. If you go to a school, there are different teachers. They're all teachers, right? Purna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
But can you say that the professor or the head of the department is same as the person who's just joined today?
No.
So it is the same thing. But they are teachers. One thing is uniform.
Okay, Mataji.
Okay. If we want to advance in Krishna consciousness, then we must know whom to associate and to what degree one has to associate with who. These are all explained in Nectar of Instruction in Shrimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. Is it 2nd chapter, verse 42, 43, 44, and 45? I think it is 11th canto. It's all explained that what association is the right kind of an association. Okay. Swati
Okay,
Mataji, you have a question? Okay, I guess no one. Okay, Nirja, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi Krishna, so nice to see you. Okay, verse 33 to 36 is a mind control. Oh, we should have a class on mind control. After this chapter is over, if you remind me, we'll do a class on mind control. Okay, go ahead, Nirja.
Arjuna Vacha Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha Samyena Madhusudana Etasye Yeham Na Pasyami Kanchala Tvastitam Striram. Translation. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and endurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Suchau Dese and ending with Yogi Paramaha, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization even by simple practical means, and what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga, even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior. He had great longevity. And above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept the system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few rare men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this was so 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system is in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. Hare Krishna.
So nice. Prabhupada is so direct. There is no filters. When you read Prabhupada's books, there is no filter. It's so much of direct. Okay, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. So people think that Krishna consciousness means no feelings, you have no voice, just it's a very blank and very bland life. But we practically see in every chapter that is quite the contrary. It's quite the contrary, because Arjuna is very expressive of what he's doing. He's very expressive of what he's hearing. He's very expressive of what he's understanding and what he's not understanding. He actually goes on reinforcing. So he's very frankly telling Krishna that this is a very impractical proposal and it is very unendurable. I can't do it because mind is very restless and unsteady. But Prabhupada is explaining that Arjuna was actually not an ordinary person. Arjuna had a lot of qualities. How many of us are Kshatriya and Maharathis? Like we can pick up a bow and ride a chariot in such a way that we can kill. Maharathi means the person can kill 1,000 people at the same time, or 1,000 elephants actually. 1,000 elephants. How many of us can do that? Yes.
We can't
None
do
of
Mataji.
us.
We can't do it, right? So so that means that we are much weak in strength than compared to Arjuna. He was a great warrior. He had a great longevity. My longevity, I don't know, no idea, right? How much longer do I have left? He was the most intimate friend of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we don't know, and we are still trying to look for Krishna. We actually don't know who Krishna is. So all these things make Arjuna very, very different from a common person. He could have done. You see, Krishna is with him. He could have done. But he still is saying for a practical reason that it is not possible, even though he was favorably endowed. So if it was unfavorable 5,000 years ago, then what makes it favorable now? Because the time is only deteriorating, right? We are only becoming more and more entangled in our spiritual world. In our material complexities. I was thinking yesterday, we don't understand, but we actually name our things also as a network, right? We say network. What this internet, we say there's a network, right? So it's
Yes.
a network. And then we say it as a web. So it's already a web we go into. And then we also use what was else I was thinking? We also say, I don't know, there was one more thing which came to my realization yesterday. I was sitting that, yeah, we actually name our life in such intricate manner, memory device. Prabhupada talks about it, like memory device. Because my memory in my head is going so low that I need a device to store the memory. So we actually are depending and more on the outside factors for our intelligence, artificial intelligence. What happened to your real intelligence? So that is what Kali Yuga does. And in one of the morning walks, I heard from Prabhupada many years ago that Prabhupada was describing that as the Kali Yuga will go on, the people, all these gadgets will become more and more prominent. Because the memory of the person will become weaker and weaker and weaker. The ability to function, the intelligence will become weaker and weaker. So Maya will bring up these gadgets in our consciousness, and a person will think that they are so nice things to possess. You see, what is the what is the object of jealousy of a person nowadays? What is the object of jealousy? If you see someone wearing an Apple Watch, oh my God, they have the best watch. So in America, even a person who's mopping the floor in the hospital has an Apple Watch. Uh, I don't have it, but they have. And then whenever I look, I see, my God, like this uh, person is mopping the floor. They could have invested their hard-earned money in a better way, but now they're attracted to put. But how many of us are really understand what's in the watch? Like, how, in other words, how many of us are really understanding the time factor, the importance? We are very attracted to the way it looks. We are very attracted to the control it gives, right? It gives, why one wants to possess it, because there's so many things you can control. You can message through it, you can chat, you can take a phone call from it, you can measure your heartbeat. Some of them have a ECG from it. That means we are looking for a control. It's a subtle sex, actually. It's a subtle the ability to control. So but how many of us are really understanding the intricacies of time factor? That's real. So what I'm trying to say is that we are becoming more and more intricated. Bahir Artha. We are looking for Artha outside of us. Outside of us. Bahir Artha. But Krishna consciousness, Bahir Artha Mani Na. We don't look for it outside of us. We look for it inside. It's an inward journey. And it's an inside out life. The more I'm connected to myself from within, the more I will have the satisfaction outside. Okay. Any questions? Or maybe we can do one more and then we can open up the floor. Okay, Janti Mataji, you want to read? Krishna consciousness is very nice. We can pick up a topic and we can talk about it in a real way. I was like, for example, focus. I was listening to one devotee's class on focus yesterday, and how nicely she was explaining what makes people in Kali Yuga not to be able to focus. What are the barriers, and what are the scriptures say about it? That how can we gather ourselves? And then what she was explaining, that what are the real practical steps of enhancing one's focus. So nice in anything we do. And how important it is to live a holistic life. You see, we cannot directly jump to the spiritualism without taking care of the body and the mind and intelligence. We need to take care of all those things. Mataji, please go ahead. It's a very nice verse. Please memorize this verse, 34th.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna, go ahead.
Chanchalam himana Krishna Ramadi balavadrudam tasyaham nigraham manye vayo rivasu dushkaram. Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it seems to be to me more difficult than controlling the wind. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence. Although mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence, for a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium towards both friend and enemy, but ultimately, no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the ragging wind. In the Vedic literatures, it is said, Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi Sriram Ratam Evacha Buddhi Hintu Saritim Vidhi Manaha Paragraham Evacha Indriyani Hayundur Vishayasams Tesu Gocharan Atmadriya Manoyakto Bukteti Ahur Manishinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say to what can we say to modern man? The smiley used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance, in all humility. The method prescribed is Sava Manaha Krishna Pradha Vindodayaha. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Very much. So, okay, so very nice words, right? That actually the intelligence is supposed to be superior to mind, but the mind is so strong that actually overpowers the intelligence also. That happens every day, actually every moment. The intelligence says to a person that this is the time to study for exam, and the mind says one show will not do anything. You need a break, you're tired, go and turn on the TV or go and turn on the YouTube. So it goes for one show, but does it remain for one show? Or does it remain for 4 hours, 5 hours, and then the time is gone? So that's how it is, right? We know what's right, but we don't have a strength to act on it. That actually is explained in 18th chapter, right? That's because of mode of passion. Is a desire. Mind is a center of all the senses, which is explained in 15th chapter, from where all the desires are generating. The desire to enjoy the material world. Senses is just an instrument. For example, if my tongue wants to eat the chaat papri, spoon is just an instrument, right? Spoon is not the enjoyer. Spoon is just an instrument to pick up the food and put it on my tongue. So similarly, this is I'm just trying to say, mind is the one that wants to enjoy through the senses, and then it directs the senses, do this, look here, eat this, look hear this, smell this, touch this. And then the living entity goes on like an uncontrolled person. It goes on like, okay, what does my mind need now? Okay, what does the mind need now? So we have to have like practical techniques to give it some peace. And the mind is not peaceful. We think that it becomes very peaceful if I fulfill the desire, but it is not. One devotee many years ago gave example that the mind is like this. Let's say you have 10 rasgullas in front of you. Okay, now you ate 2. It's Onam, right? In Kerala, so maybe they have a lot of sweets now. So you eat 2, and then the intelligence says enough. That's all you need for a body. It's enough. And the mind says have more. And then actually intelligence is supposed to be stronger, but the mind overpowers, and then we eat more, and we eat more, and we eat 8, and then we eat 10, and then I can't get up from my chair. Right? Then it becomes so heavy to digest. So that's what the mind does to us. Okay, but actually, what is mind looking for? I was listening to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was saying the origin of mind is from the combination of false ego and mode of goodness. I was very, very, very surprised when he was explaining this mode of goodness. So actually, the mind is restless because it is really looking for activities in the mode of goodness. That is why people who are so saintly, who are so elevated in yoga practice, their mind is controlled, right? How come their mind is controlled and my mind is not controlled? Because they are situated in mode of goodness, at least to the very least mode of goodness. So cultivate a lifestyle of mode of goodness. Cultivate. It's a cultivation. It's not automatic. Cultivate a lifestyle of mode of goodness and give it to this poor mind suffering. Oh, suffering. And that only happens if you live with or if you associate with like-minded people regularly, not once a week or twice a week, every moment. That's why we send temple links. Please join for Srimad Bhagavatam class every day. Please listen. Please read. Please chant every day. Right? At least every day, if not every moment. It should be every moment actually, but every moment, it will become every moment if you at least do every day. Please eat Krishna Prasadam. Please do your assignments on time. Please, right? So please come for classes. Please associate. Please do your projects. This is all actually a subtle way of controlling the mind. And we need that. We actually need that. Why not? What's the harm in taking care of yourself? Why not? There should be no cultural, there's a cultural shame there, right? And a personal shame that am I becoming so selfish that I'm doing this. That's the projection of the collective shame. But why not? You have to break that. What's the harm? There's no harm in taking care of oneself in a very productive and Krishna conscious manner. Actually, it is the best game. And if you change that subtle, it's always from subtle to gross. If you change that subtle activity of the mind and saying yes to Krishna, the gross activity will change on its own. Okay, so Prabhupada says twice in this verse that intelligence is supposed to be higher than mind, but mind takes over because it is so strong. And the verse and the simile which is given is that of a wind. We cannot control a strong wind, so mind is like that. So one principle that my Guru Maharaj says is to control the mind in the beginning is to neglect the dictations of the mind. Neglect it. You have to neglect. If I start, you have to like negotiate and talk to your mind. Yes, I will do this. I will eat. I will eat this 8 rasgullas, but let me just get up and walk around a little bit. Let me just drink water. You have to like neglect like that. Okay. Mind will say, why are you chanting Hare Krishna? There's so many things. You see, there's so many vessels in the sink. You see, there's so many undone work in the house or in outside the house. And how come you have time to chant Hare Krishna and no time to do that work? So yeah, I do have a lot of work to do. Let me just give 5 minutes to Hare Krishna. Let just 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go and do. You cannot question. No, I'm going to chant. No, because we are not so strong. Negotiate and neglect. Okay. So nice, right? Krishna consciousness is very nice. So we studied about the 2 elements of samadhi, verse number 33 and 34. No, 31 and 32. And then we started with the mind control from verse 33 to 34. I requested all of you to memorize the verse number 34. Next week, we'll try to finish the chapter. Does anyone has any questions?